Okay, I think we have a good number of people already joined. So thank you everyone for joining our Winter 24 Release 1 webinar. This is just a quick update from Provar about the new things that we've released in our latest product. So if you don't know me, I'm Samuel Arroyo. I'm the VP of Product at Provar. And again, the first thing I always like to say at the beginning is thank you to all our customers and partners for trusting us with anything to do with quality, test automation, and thank you for joining. So today we're going to have a bit of a smaller set of features to talk about compared to the last release, but that will give us a bit more time to dive into how some of them look like. So we're going to spend around 20 minutes looking into automation and manager and some updates to the platform and any new feature and enhancement that we've introduced. And hopefully by the end, we will have a bit of time for Q&A where you can just share any doubts and questions about the things you will see, or any question around our roadmap, our products, where we're going. So I'll be very happy to answer your questions. And without further ado, let's jump into Provar Automation, which is our test automation tool. On this new version, I don't know if you've read the release notes. I know not everyone likes reading release notes, but here's the condensed version. We've added a new feature so that now you can connect to your UI apps that need SSO, so single sign-on or multi-factor authentication. So we do support those for connecting to Salesforce, but we wanted to bring in a generic approach for those non-Salesforce applications that you may need to connect with. And because nowadays almost all the applications use some form of multi-factor authentication, and many enterprise customers also use single sign-on. So we thought it was good timing to add support for this. And I will later show you how it looks like. We've also been spending a bit of time on Test Builder, which is our intuitive test authoring tool. And we've added the way of dragging and dropping test steps, which every time, like ever since I joined the company a couple of years ago, was like a no-brainer. Why don't we have this? But finally, we got the time and the skills and really got into it. And you will see how it looks like. I think it's a pretty cool way of solving that and improving the user experience. And also we're still dedicating time on Test Builder. We want to make it more intuitive, easy to use, and have a bit of feature comparison with Studio, with our ID, as well as making it faster. So we're looking definitely into the performance of it. We've continued adding support for Salesforce features. So there were quite a few changes introduced by Salesforce on this latest release, which broke many of our test cases as we ran our massive regression test suite to see what works, what has changed. And we realized many of the things in the DOM, how they're rendered, were changed. And we needed to quickly update Provar Automation to make sure that your test cases don't break. We've also added support for dynamic related lists. So this was introduced a long time ago, and now admins are starting to use this component on their pages. So therefore, we need to support it, and you will find that we have built-in support for that right now. And we've also been updating the components for Nitrex. So if you don't know about Nitrex, this is our next generation tooling for locating things on the page. So it's a different technology for locating elements, especially line away components and custom components. So it's not based on Java and page objects, but based on JSON. And the good thing is I don't think all of the updated Nitrex components are part of the release, but we do have a way of distributing them otherwise. So we have a marketplace where without you having to update Provar Automation, you are able to update the components and stay up to date. For our experimental features, which we sometimes call labs, anything coming from our labs and R&D department. There have been some improvements on Docker runners. So if you use Docker for whatever reason to run your Provar test projects, then we've improved the dependency management, compatibility, and performance. And we're open for feedback. If you're using it, please let us know if it's helping you. And for test case generation, we've improved the performance and fixed some issues that we were having. So a few juicy features coming on automation. And for manager, we have 3 main features that we've introduced. So the first one is AI-generated root cause analysis, which I mentioned on LinkedIn a few days ago, if you caught that. But otherwise, this is actually coming from our customers. We proposed a list of different ways in which we could leverage AI. Everyone is talking about AI, but ways in which it actually could bring value to our customers, to our users, and to you. So from a list of maybe 5 to 10 items, the one that was chosen was root cause analysis. And we purposely wanted to deliver this before Dreamforce. So Dreamforce is Salesforce annual event in San Francisco, and this year is going to be all about AI. So I think it was good timing. We also wanted to get it out there as soon as possible and start getting feedback. And I will show you how it works later. We've also introduced a way of retrying test cycles, which was not there in Manager before. In automation, you can already retry test cycles, but in Manager, which is used for orchestrating anything that is happening. So now you can retry test cycles either being run for a Salesforce Apex units test, which is useful for developers, or also if you're using Grid, running your Provar test case in the cloud, you can also retry those. And I'll show you that later on. And finally, we've improved a bit of the UI to make it more intuitive and easy to use. And finally, the integration between automation and Manager. We've taken into account some of the feedback that we've been getting from those early adopters of Manager. They wanted to sync the test case maintainer that was defined in automation, sync it with Manager. So we've introduced that now. So if you upload your test case, the maintainer will get synced. We've simplified the connection setup, though the setup you will only do it once, but if you're testing, it helps so that you don't have to set up a connected app and things like that. I'll show you later. And we've also improved some of the UX. Before I jump on the quick demo, remember you can go into the Q&A section and just type any question that you may have. Okay, so let's start with Provar automation. Let's see if I can get it up there. So I'm running the latest version of Provar automation. And first I'm going to show you this new connection that uses SSO or MFA, or both. So if you are in need of setting those up, this is how you would do it. So set up a new connection, just call it my SSO, select UI testing, UI connection, and now you will find there's 2 checkboxes. Some of you may just need SSO, some may need just MFA, or some may need both of them. So we catered for those 3 scenarios, and you just need to have the info necessary to enter here and set up your connection. So I think quite easy to use. Coming into the drag and drop, let me see if I can spin up Test Builder. Okay. So now it's going to try and run the whole thing. Just give me a second. If you're interested in the SSO or the MFA features, let me know so that we can keep in touch and see how you're adopting them, if they actually work for your use case. And then that way we can improve the feature. Okay. So we are done, but now something that you couldn't do before was move around these test steps. Now, if you click on any of them and just move it, you will see that placeholder that says move here in pink. You can move it up and down to a different section, different group. If you're here, you can move it to the right so it gets in that group or outside the group as well. I'm just gonna leave it as it was. As you change it, it automatically changes your test case. And you can check that in automation. Okay, let me stop that. If you're interested in uploading your test case maintainer to Manager, the way that you do that, or even if you're not using it and you're interested in using it, is using tags. So here you can create a tag of type test case maintainer. The tag name would usually be the name of the person, and the description has to be the email, or an email that matches a person record in Manager. Just a heads up. And then let's actually do that. And if you didn't know that you could do that, now you know. So test case maintainer, and then on my test case, I can add test case maintainer here. Let's say this is Samuel, and then save that. And as I upload it, you will see who's a maintainer in Manager. Okay, let's move into Manager now. So let's go into our Salesforce native Quality Hub. And here I want to show you the test cycle retries and the test execution and the AI generated root cause analysis. So let's start with a Provar project, which we have here. So this is actually the project that you saw on automation right now. And I've uploaded it here. I've actually set it up with Grid. So I have my test suite and I've run it with Grid, and I've got a test cycle back. So we've changed the way that this test execution looks like. We are now generating, I believe, just one test cycle per execution. So beforehand, we used to split them by browser, operating system, and so on. Now we're just consolidating everything into one test cycle to keep it simple. But that means that we need to show the operating system and the browser here. As you can see, many of them actually failed. And I may be interested in just running the ones that failed. So I can either click here, retry, and say all tests, all failed tests, or if I select some of them, could be just only the selected tests. And if I do that, it will automatically run those for you. And when it's done, it will bring the results and overwrite here. So in the end, you will end up with just one test cycle, no matter how many retries, just one test cycle, and it will just keep updating this one instead of having many test cycles, which can become a mess. Okay, cool. Now let's look at the root cause analysis. So root cause analysis only works with Salesforce unit tests. Sorry, actually, I think I'm getting some questions here. The color from failed test case changes when selected. Yeah, that's fine. Unfortunately, we're bound to some of the ways that Salesforce works. So let's go to a project that we are using to run unit tests. And I don't know if you're in charge of the unit tests in your company. If not, you probably should. It's also to do with quality. It's not just for developers. But this may interest you. So here I run a test cycle. I'm actually running a bunch of unit tests in Salesforce, in this org itself, actually. So let's go to one that failed. I have this one. I'm just going to click on it and find what happened. So these are all my unit test functions. Here I have a bug. And beforehand, just look at the stack trace, and you may open the defect, read it, don't have a clue what that means. Just send it to the developer who may be working in Jira or Azure DevOps, and that's it. But we thought that it would be good to at least get some insight before you send it across or before you start digging into what happened here. So now you will see that there is a button here to generate root cause analysis. And once you click it, it will connect to OpenAI. So you need to enter your OpenAI API key. It will leverage OpenAI to look into the error, the source code, try to figure out what happened, and produce a report. I'm not going to run it now because it takes around 30 seconds for OpenAI to bring back a result. But what we do is we store it here. And obviously you can rerun it if you don't think that the root cause analysis was any good, which sometimes it isn't because it doesn't have all the information to come up with something clever. But at least what we try to do is provide certain sections. So please have an introduction, the background, description of the error, try to do some analysis. So it has access to the unit test, so it knows what's happening there. And up to a certain point, it can tell you what failed and what you should start looking at. So the recommendations tells you what could be the next steps, what a developer or you yourself could start looking into. And then ideally, you would send that to the developer or whoever it is. So at least they have a bit of information without having to switch context and dive into the code to just figure out what's happening. And at least it will help you give a priority, impact maybe. But yeah, I think it's at least valuable to get some information out of an error and then just keep it at that. So let's come back to the last part of the presentation, the platform updates. So very quickly, we added support for Chrome 115 and 116, and a couple of notices. So the first one is that we are thinking of discontinuing our custom plugin for Jira, for SVN, and for T. These are not the standard plugins. Actually, they may be broken. They may not be working for you anyways. So before we do that, we are waiting for customers to tell us, hey, don't do that. We're still using it. And we want to get a clear idea of if anyone is actually using any of these plugins. We believe they're not. But if you are, just let us know. Ideally, you will move out of our custom plugin into the official plugins for each one of those scenarios. And the second one is that we're currently working on improving the cohesion of our test projects. And we are adding global unique identifiers to a lot of items in a project, like test plans, test cases, test steps, environments, trying to give unique identifiers, which will help us move further into the cloud. So on the next version, we're planning that there will be a required project upgrade, which means that just one person in your team will have to upgrade the project. It will generate IDs for everything that is in your project, and then you should make that available for everyone else. You shouldn't have different people running the same project upgrade process, because it would generate conflicting ideas and you will just mess up the whole thing. So heads up, this is coming and we're interested in your opinions and any feedback that you may have. But we know it can be very sensitive and it's crucial for you to maintain test projects that work across your whole team. So without further ado, just going to jump onto Q&A. I'm going to start with the questions as I got them. Can actually show it? No, I can't show it. So the first question from Pavel: are there any guides for updating via Marketplace and get anything in the UI, or was it maybe introduced just in the latest release? Okay, good question. I haven't tried that myself, but what we can do is send communications on how to update. I reckon you're talking about Nitro-X, so how to update the Nitro-X components. So we would point you towards the documentation on how that works. Another question, wouldn't be able to connect with Jira from Provar application anymore. I believe that you can use standard Eclipse plugins instead of the one that we create ourselves. I'm not totally sure. I need to talk with the product manager in charge of that. And there's some communication going on at some point. But we are trying to get people to move away from our ones into someone else's, ideally the official ones, which are supported. I'd like to get more information about that because it was important. Yes, we will be in contact with everyone else on what's the alternative and the path forward. Discontinuation of Provar Jira plugin means we won't be able to push defects from manager to Jira import bugs and so on. The connection between automation and Jira has nothing to do with manager, so that's fine. Support engineers previously told me that I can't install any third-party plugins. Okay, good to know. Yeah, we will just not tell you like, oh, we're getting rid of these plugins. We will actually have documentation on how you can move away. But it's good to know that you're using it, so we can have a conversation with you and see what's the path forward. At the moment, it's mostly a notice to see who complains, and then we can start figuring out, okay, what are you using? How are you using it? How does it work for you? And then see if you can move into something else, because at the moment, just maintaining those are like legacy stuff for us. So we are trying to remove it from the product and be a bit more agile in that way. Okay, we still have 5 more minutes. So please, if you have any question, just write it down. I'm wondering if what were your thoughts around the AI generated root cause analysis, or if there was any other feature that piqued your interest. It would be great to know it. Okay, we have some things in the chat as well. From Jalal, is there any update on retrieving data from Excel for Salesforce UT testing? Salesforce unit testing? Retrieving data from Excel. If it's unit testing, you probably should be using just Apex, and you can load up a CSV file to generate the data during test setup. So if that's where you're going, I think that's probably your answer. Prasad is asking, is there any document related to data-driven test written data from Excel? The documentation in the Provar is related to API testing. Not much help in that situation. Okay, that's good to know. We will look into the documentation if there is anything available. Otherwise, we probably have some assets, training assets on how you can use Excel or CSV files to run your test cases. We have a provision to do SSL logging without using SSO file.java file or customized code to enter username and password. Not sure right now. I think that UI asked for username and password, but what I can do is just put you in contact with a product manager who was in charge of that feature. And then you can share what your needs or requirements are. And maybe we can extend it in some way. Great. Yeah, my understanding is that with a new feature, you don't need custom Java anymore. But I may be mistaken. I will just double check that with the PM. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I don't know how many of you are going to Dreamforce. If you are, come by our booth. We can have a chat and demo some of the newest features and how automation and manager and grid work together. We will also be speaking at Dreamforce on the 14th. We have 3 speakers on different topics. So yeah, tune into that. And also, if you have any further feedback, any features you're looking forward to seeing into any of the products, automation or manager, or even grid, then just let us know. And great. Yes. Thank you for joining and take care.